another thing that helped bring it into focus for me too was recognizing that my parents were losing friends, dying of cancer or whatever. And it's just this like, we get one shot that we know of, on this planet. It's like, what do you want it to be?
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't want to be miserable forever. Like that sucks.
Right.
Like, it was just, it felt sometimes as simple as that of like,
right.
I get to pick. We have a choice.
Wow.
We have a choice. So that's why I encourage people to pay attention to how many times they say should in a day, and then replace that with the word choice or I choose. And so it really puts into perspective if you're shoulding on yourself, if you're letting other people should on you, or something else should on you. And then you think, am I choosing this?
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Foureva podcast, where we talk about business and things that are personal, because business is personal. We have a special episode today that we're going to be doing with Jill Andersen. So amazed to have her on this podcast. My name is Jamar Jones. I am the owner of Foureva Media. I'm a speaker and also an author of my new book, Change Your Circle, Change Your Life, which is a book all about how to navigate and evaluate your current circle and how to get into new ones. But today we are going to be talking about some awesome stuff. We're going to be talking about the hardest things to say, which are, I was wrong, I need help, and Worcestershire sauce.
Yes.
I think I got that right.
You did it. You did it.
And so we're going to really be talking about that frustration level as far as leading up to anything that you're trying to achieve. And really, what do you do with that frustration? Should you, take that, internalize it, and just beat yourself up over it? Or should you simply ask for help? Should you have a support system? Should you have people that are cheering you on? But we're going to get into all of that as we talk with Jill Andersen. She is a speaker, a coach, and a shoulding survivor.
Yes.
Shoulding survivor. We're going to get into that and what that means. But please, if you already haven't followed the podcast, the Foureva podcast, please follow us. We're on all streaming platforms, and we are just going to get straight into it. So, Jill, tell the world who you are, what you do, and what you got going on in your life.
I'm so thrilled to be here. Thank you for the opportunity, number one. I'm Jill Andersen. I am a corn-fed, homegrown Iowa girl, so living in the Midwest in Des Moines. I have been a foodie for about 20 years, went through some crap like most people do, realized that shoulds were running my life for most of it. And so when we say shoulding survivor, if you say it really fast, it sounds kind of naughty, which is what I love about it. So now I am a coach. I am a speaker. I also have a podcast called Stop Shoulding Yourself. And I believe that all of us have such greatness and such potential inside of us. And we are kind of conditioned and programmed to get through it, do what other people think we should do, and just live by expectations instead 100%. Of really understanding 100%. What it is that we really love and want for ourselves. And so it is my calling, my purpose to help people through that process, to be that support, to be that non-judgmental place as a coach, to air that out and to let them feel what that feels like to be excited and to be kind of experience themselves fully, sometimes for the first time.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. And I love the shoulding because a lot of people think that they should do things and they should be in different places, or they should be a different place in their life. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times you're constantly battling that, always within your own mind. The outside influence sometimes just makes it worse.
Correct.
Correct. Especially, family, parents, it might be expectations from other people that you think you should be in different places. That's amazing. So as far as, I just wanted to just real quick, because I have a lot of different listeners. I would say that people just have different perspectives from and this is just a perspective that I can't relate to. So I wanted to ask you a question as far as, with shoulding, and just to get your take on from a woman's perspective. So I feel like the expectations of man and woman are, there's these levels where we should be at certain places and we should do things. From a woman's perspective, what kind of insight can you give to kind of the female audience of that expectation of just being a woman, especially in America, and just like what you should be doing? Just what's your take and perspective on that?
That's a big one.
That's why I asked it.
It's a huge onion. There's lots of layers to this one. And it's so timely. I feel like I'm experiencing that in a lot of ways in my own life. I think, there's shoulds from how we're supposed to look, how we're supposed to dress. Honestly, it took me a long time to feel okay showing up to my parents' house with half my head buzzed off and a tattoo.
Wow, really? Wow.
But that's just me being a pleaser and like that fear of disappointment. That's something that has been part of who I am and what I've identified as for a long time. And so I think, again, it's realizing that these things are conditioned and that we're programmed and that we really do have the power of choice.
Yes.
And it's beyond not only, beyond our career and, be who you want to be, and you can be whoever that is. A lot of times we don't know who that is. We don't have the chance. We don't know how to source that from within. It's already in there. We just don't know how to dig it out. It's been kind of pushed down and molded by culture, by upbringing, by society and peer pressure, all these things. So as a woman, I feel like a unique challenge we have is how to show up fully as the feminine we are, at least for me to, as we're evolving in, especially with, all the rise of us women in our career roles. And I think that's an interesting dynamic with the masculine too, of like, can't we show up as we are, who we are, and interact without trying to be, tough and hard. Like I'm feminine. I can't tell you how many times I've gotten frustrated and cried in a corporate environment. And I felt so awful and ashamed of that because that, like that feeling of weakness. So I think some of that is just embracing and being okay with who you are from the inside allows you to handle those shoulds and all of that external stuff a lot easier. I feel like we do it backwards.
Wow. Well, I do feel like a lot of times big time like corporate environments are very toxic. And the reason why is so last night we had so Foureva Media sponsored and put together and threw a whole event last night with 100 business professionals. It was at Ford Space. It was with Shay Rowbottom. She's a LinkedIn influencer, and she talked about and touched on people wear masks all day, especially in corporate environments, and where they're just trying to please. They're just trying to kind of wear that face to think to do the job, right? To do the job. But it's very interesting that everything you just said is because people are wearing that mask, and trying to please and just be this person that's not them. And when people just need to be a human being and just respect one another, and you can create and collaborate, with that process, and just treat people. I mean, honestly, it's like the classic way of treat people how you want to be treated. And just with that mindset of just like, hey, I want to treat people with respect and, dignity and, just love. I mean, that's where it comes from. And for you to say that, even from you breaking down and having these moments of vulnerability and feeling ashamed, it's like we're all human beings. We all do it. It's just a lot of times people do it in closed doors.
Right. Well, and that lends so beautifully to what you said in the beginning about why you're doing this podcast. It's because I like to say to my clients, everything is spaghetti. Like everything touches, right? Like, so if we want to work on our career life, if we want to work on our spiritual life, on our whatever those aspects, everything touches. When you work on yourself, that trickles into your relationships. It trickles into your family life, into your work life. So, embracing that holistic human,
right,
is what will make the difference. So,
yeah,
gosh, you're already doing that. But that's an important discussion, and that meant enough to you to be doing this. I mean, that speaks volumes.
yes, yes. I mean, I just want people to. A lot of times people learn by just grabbing little nuggets.
Mhm.
You can hand them the whole playbook. This is it. This is what you got to do. But they're only going to take in a little bit at a time. They're not going to. Very few people can just take that playbook and execute it perfectly.
Right.
To change
Because
that. A
we
lot of
need
stuff takes time.
support. We
Yes.
need help.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
sometimes that's in the form of a human to receive and hold space for whatever, they're experiencing. And I
Yeah.
have felt that as a coach, that's how you change the world.
Right. Right. Helping,
Because
supporting. Yep.
yeah, and like having that non-judgmental place to just air that out, because everybody you love has a vested interest in you in some way or another. Like how it affects, some decisions you make will inevitably affect them, or they want what they think is best for you. So all these things can be coming from a really
Right.
great place. But I think that's where the shoulds and the pressure start to build, because we want what's best for the people that we love and vice versa. But it's difficult to discern how you really feel about that. And so that's why the power of coaching that's where it showed up for me for the first time. I realized I had basically a board of directors in my life that I would ask them everything. What should I do about this? What should I do about that?
Yeah.
I never asked myself. And even if I did, I don't think I could have told you an answer.
Wow.
Because it was more
Wow.
about doing the right thing or the proper thing or what they thought I should do, which was the next step
Right.
on the ladder.
Right.
So I think, yeah, the whole being, we all have all the answers. We just need help digging them out.
Yeah. And so I know a lot of people are going to ask, how do they get that supportive circle? How do they get that supportive group that's going to help them? So a lot of people feel like they can't ask for help because there's no one there to help them.
Great question. I think the first place to start is to give the people in your life an opportunity to help. I was married when I was in my early 30s for about a year and a half, and I was terrified that was not a good decision. It was,
Wow.
that we needed to end the marriage. It was scary. And I was like, my parents are going to kill me. Here I'm thinking, like, do I send the gifts back? Like, oh my gosh, this is horrible. So many things.
Yeah,
But
of
but
course.
I
Yeah.
but I gave them, like, they rose to the occasion and they supported me in a way that I never would have imagined, not because they didn't love me, just because I was afraid. I was full of fear.
Yeah.
And so I
Yeah.
think giving your people the opportunity to show up for you will very quickly show you who those people are in your life. And if you don't have them,
Yeah.
they're out there. So I think it's finding people who challenge you in a healthy way, who are just inquisitive and have aligned goals. I would say, I think when we talk about the onion too, if finding people that are on a similar layer level
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
you, right?
Yeah.
Because if you're wanting to grow and dig deeper, if you're a level 2 onion and, or if I'm a level 6 onion and my friend over here is a level 2, like, you can
Yeah.
align
Yeah.
on some things, but they're not going to get you as deep as you want to go. So I think those are ways that I kind of evaluate.
In my book, I talk about the vampires and the shepherds. So the people that you're talking about that you need to align yourself with are called shepherds. At least that's what I call them. People that
Yeah.
are a guide or a beacon, or they are kind of like, hey, they're getting you from point A to point B. They're
Yes.
challenging but supportive, constructive criticism, adding more energy into your life every time you acknowledge them and you interact with them, not the
Yes.
people that are taking away. And I think a lot of people, they don't allow themselves to really see who those people are because they're not asking, like you just said.
No.
They're not
Well, yeah.
asking for that help.
No, not asking for help. And from a pleaser and a helper, I'm great at offering it, but I'm not good at asking for it. And then I can ask for it, and then receiving it's a whole other ballgame. And that's uncomfortable. But those are things where discomfort is worthwhile. you know, and that's where you really tune into what you're like. Our bodies are sending us signals constantly, and we are excellent about hitting the mute button. And it's like, you're like, the energy and your gut feelings don't lie. Like, you know, when somebody, like, I get on a Zoom call with you, I've never met you literally in my life, in real life. But when your face pops up and we have a phone, we're like buzzing, we're having a great time. Like, but that's undeniable energy, right? Of like, you're just a great human. You can feel it at the core. So it's trusting that too, kind of that sixth sense that you have, and surrounding yourself and paying attention. Like, who are those people? Who lifts me up? Who do I want to be around? Who makes me feel better just by being or spending time?
Yes. The key is self-awareness. You know, if you can unlock that self-awareness, and you kind of dove into a few aspects because I believe that self-awareness is boiled into three ingredients to basically unlock your self-awareness, which is, one is confidence, another one is fear, and another one is perspective.
Yeah.
If you can really master those within yourself, and then understand your own self-love and self-worth, you can really understand exactly what Jill's talking about when it's like getting past that fear, why it's worth it to get past those uncomfortable moments, having the confidence to tell your parents, hey, this was a mistake. But I need to do what's right for me. What has been the one thing in your life that has helped you transition from kind of, being behind that self-awareness? Because it feels like you have a lot of self-awareness within yourself to know and love yourself. So what was the transition point for you? What was that defining moment of like, okay, I'm understanding myself. I can now write my own future?
Yeah, it really was the moment where I knew that I needed to leave my first marriage, because I couldn't ignore the whisper anymore. The whisper became like a bullhorn in my ear, and it was my intuition. It was like the gut feeling. She wasn't going to take it anymore. I didn't even know who she was at that moment. Like, I was like, what is this? But it was something that I knew I couldn't ignore. So it was almost became bigger than me in the moment. It's kind of weird to describe, but that's how the courage, I don't know where it came from, but it was like, you either get to be miserable or you get to do something hard and
so you hit a
resurrect. You did.
Right?
It was just this. Yeah, it was an indescribable, I almost feel like it was like a divine conversation, almost like God was in my ear being like, hey, you don't have to. And I'm like, what? Listens to like all the authority over here. I'm like, what? I don't have to? What? And it was just, but that was the first experience of true alignment with my inside and outside, being like, hey, I feel and I know deep within that this is the right decision. And it was hard. And then every single thing has just been a build on ever since. Like, trusting myself, trusting my intuition, trusting the path. And it was letting go of the reins in a way, not in letting someone else take them, but it was that moment of surrender, of almost surrendering to myself in a way that I hadn't before.
And did you hear those whispers previously before this moment? And did you just ignore them? Did you just like, okay.
Shove. Yeah. Like, my soul was like in a trash compactor, you know, like, you just keep pushing it down, because I think, and this is, I'm going to say that youth is overrated, by the way, because when we're younger, we look for guidance, right? That relationship within isn't very well established for a lot of us. And so I was ignoring it, thinking that, well, I must be messed up or broken or something weird's going on in here, like conform, like out there is doing it right. So I didn't, that it was a constant battle, but I just thought that there was something wrong with me. So I just figured if I kept doing the right things, that eventually it would align and everything would take off and be okay, until I was like, whoops. Nope. Not happening.
Do you feel like that's what it takes, like for people to hit a boiling point? Because I feel like with myself, I hit that as well. And I went through a divorce, a very heartbreaking divorce as well. With somebody that I was with for not a short period of time. It's right, I think 12 years.
Yeah, that's a
12
long
years
time.
since I was in high school. It was a very, like, kind of like you said, that divine conversation of with yourself of like, do I want, like, what do I want, you know, and like how much longer am I going to kind of put up or deal with this situation, because I don't want to hurt feelings. I don't want to. I
Mhm.
mean, there's so many levels to it, but do you feel like that really is the thing that people need to hit, that wall almost, like where they have to, that fork in the road where they have to choose? Is that what makes it?
Yeah, I think that, or just being pummeled by all these questions and not, why am I not happy? Why do I not, sometimes it can just be the culmination of all of these things going on. And then the aha moment comes. I think for some people, it's like, I have the house, I have the car, I have the job, I have the
Yeah,
kids, I have,
yeah.
and where's this fulfillment that I was promised? It is just,
Wow.
I think some of it comes with age. Some of it comes with hard things. So
Yeah,
I have clients who are in their 20s who are struggling with this, but they've encountered a lot of struggle early on in life that's kind of built their wisdom a little bit. And
of
so
course. Yeah,
I think it is. It's just, and then when you take that responsibility on for yourself, like, yeah, I am choosing that. Then your
yeah, yeah,
attitude and your mindset starts to shift instead of being like, oh
yeah,
my God, I have to,
yeah,
but it's like,
yeah.
no, I'm choosing to gotta get up and go to work today. May not be the job that I love, but today I'm choosing it. And if I don't want that to be my choice later, then
Yes,
what do I get to do to change
that's
the
powerful.
trajectory?
If you're listening to this, do that. If you're watching this, do that.
Yeah.
Just write that down. Just do it for a day. Do it for a week. Just
Mm-hmm.
write that down. It's kind of taking it. It's a different perspective the way that you're phrasing it, but it's almost like, when people are in their professional career, a lot of times they're like, "Oh, I'm just too busy," and
Mm-hmm.
really the answer to that is write down everything that you do in a day, and then reflect on and say, what were the actionable things that move things forward, or what were time wasters, what were, things that
Right.
could have waited. And then you'd be shocked at, like, oh my God, if I just kind of clean this up and not, have, I didn't realize that 4 hours of my day was just, firefighting, or I
Right.
was, just doing things that weren't productive. And also you start looking like, actually, I do have more time in the day. So it's almost like that realization of like, hey, you're writing down all the things that you said, oh, I should be, or and
Or
you're
I
you're switching
shouldn't.
that, yeah, or I shouldn't, and then you're placing that with choice, which puts you in power.
Yeah. And it helps you prioritize. You're talking about the list too. All of us have the same amount of time in the day.
Yeah,
So that I don't have time is I'm just not choosing that that's high enough on the list.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
But taking ownership for those actions with yourself,
yeah,
it's a very powerful thing. And to regulate um how you show up in a way, when am I
right.
most productive? Like, I've got a really busy week next week. So it's, I know that I need recovery time. So I'm choosing, as much as I would love to spend time with some of my people in the evening next week, I'm going to be wiped out and I'm not going to be any good for them or for myself. It's going to drain more than fill me up. So
Right,
those are the
right.
things that we learn as we're making these choices for ourselves. And do I have to go to blah, blah, blah? No, I don't.
The next step, so once you have this realization and
Yeah.
uh you kind of flipped the light switch, and the light bulb went off, did
Yeah.
you, after you did that with yourself, did you then go to somebody? Did you have some support structure that you could go to after you had this realization of, did you have anybody to talk to? Like, what was your support system like?
I People there were friends that came out of the woodwork in those moments that I was like, oh, I've been through something hard like this too. And I'm like, what? So again, letting people show up for you. So,
Yeah,
I felt like, a lot of it was a lot of inner work because I needed to do that. there were so many helpful people along the way. When I got to the point where I had some good footing, good as in kind of got through the triaging of the immediate aftermath and just like kind of being knocked down a little bit and got a little bit of perspective. Like that's when I was hiring a coach, and I didn't know it came in the focus of career at the time because I was feeling restless in a lot of areas, like that whole spaghetti thing was coming into play. And I wasn't feeling fulfilled in my career. There's another aspect of everything that just got thrown into the blender. And that's where I learned purpose and the power of a non-judgmental space. And so for me, it was more about forward motion, which is where coaching is really powerful. And she just held space and let me like fire off all these, like, it was a should show. No joke. It was, and she was like, you have permission to do
should show
whatever it is. I know. The puns go on forever. Yeah. And so having that positive, like forward motion support was really, really a turning point. And that's where the last 5 years have just been in terms of career and life.
Would you say that coach that you sought out, would you consider that person a mentor, kind of guiding you and helping you?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was the most powerful experience of having somebody be in a position to support you without having influence in the way of the decision-making part. And I tell my clients this all the time. I don't give a rip what you decide.
Yeah.
Don't care.
Yeah.
I have no vested interest in what it is that you choose, as long as it comes from a place of discernment and having that self-awareness and making that decision. So that person, I'm not working with her currently, but we stay in close touch, and I'm always like, but she's an example, of course, of how she's building her business, how she's living. And it's almost that, again, that permission to keep growing.
Yeah.
And, and it changed my whole trajectory of life since then. Like that's when career change and coaching and speaking and all this stuff, because it was the pattern of like, what are you good at? And I was like, oh, I like speaking. That's for people who like want a lot of attention or just like attention seekers. And like, who likes doing that? You're a weirdo if you like to speak. I was like, but I enjoy it. It gave me that like zippy feeling and just as, oh my gosh, I love this. I am meant for this. And then just being like, hey, this was the gift I was given. So we're going to go with it. And so that's been like the blossoming and the opening up of like, who am I really?
So I got one last question to ask you. So if I was in an elevator with you only for 30 seconds and I knew who you were, I knew that you were, coach, speaker, and I was just at a place where I'm trying to figure out this thing we call life. Mm-hmm. What would you advise me if I asked you, hey, I'm trying to figure this thing out. It looks like you got it all together. It looks like you're on a good path. I loved your presentation tonight, or whatever the case may be. We're in an elevator, it's just me and you. Mm-hmm. What advice would you give me?
I would say, Jamar, you need to stop trying to figure it out and start feeling it out. As a human who can figure out how to put the pieces together, the figuring it out is the easy part. That's logistics. But that's not where your answers are. Your answers are in, how does this make me feel? We don't ask ourselves that. That's like icky, gooey stuff. We don't like swimming in that pool, but that's where your answers are. And when you can dial that in, tune into that dial the fear back. It's going to take a little bit to kind of like, push the fear down, or just tell it to take a back seat for a little bit. We don't want to ignore it completely, but to get comfortable with making those connections, then you can bring your head back in. But the figuring it out isn't the place for the big changes to come. It's from the inside.
Wow.
That's probably longer than 30 seconds.
It's probably longer, but I've stayed in the elevator with you, and we've gone a couple other floors just
It got
to
stuck.
chop
It got
up.
stuck. We had to call the fire department.
Yes, that amazing, amazing. Well, thank you so much, Jill, for being on the podcast. I think that you dropped so many gems
Thank you.
here today. Uh, let people know how they can find you, how they can get connected. I would say this real quick, that we're all human beings. We are all just trying to figure everything out in our own lives.
Mhm.
And we're not unreachable. So if you're
No.
listening to this, if you're watching this, please reach out to Jill if you have other
Yes.
further questions. You want to dive a little bit deeper. I know some people are like, well, I'm not going to get a response, or I'm not. Just reach out. First of all,
Try me.
you're already shooting
Try me.
yourself
Yeah.
as you're putting that in your head of like, oh well, she shouldn't, wouldn't, so she wouldn't respond,
Yes, you would.
so replace that with a would. Have a choice and say, hey, I'm gonna actually reach out. So
Yes.
where can people connect with you and
Oh,
find you?
yes. First website is heyjill.com. Easy to spell. Hey Jill. You can email me, jill@heyjill.com, which is easy. I'm on Instagram at Jill Hey Jill. Lots of Jills and Hays and Jills. So you can send me a DM. You can email me. I love hearing from people. Yes, please. I send out a newsletter every Wednesday. That's kind of a fun thing I do to connect and share. So you can sign up for that on my website. I'm collecting 1 million shoulds. That's my goal. I don't know how long it's going to take. All you have to do is go to heyjill.com and drop them in. Jill will respond.
Jill will respond. Awesome. Yes. Well, thank you so much. You are an amazing person, amazing human being.
Same are you.
All right. Everyone, please like, comment, and subscribe for the YouTube channel. Or if you're listening on the podcast, please go ahead and subscribe to all the different podcast channels that we have. And thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Foureva Podcast. And peace and love, and continue for happiness.
Yeah, right? And I'll say, stop shooting yourself.
Stop shooting yourself. I like that. All right. Peace.
Thanks, Jamar.
Thanks for watching this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to hit that notification bell for more amazing content that we're going to be putting out. And don't forget, you can change your circle to change your life.